What's up, Crashers? Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/weddingcrashers. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player.
Welcome to the Wedding Crashers Podcast. All right, guys. Hey, welcome to the first live episode of Wedding Crashers Podcast. We got Chris Smith, author of the Conversion Code here.
What?
Cheers, cheers.
It's going to be an awesome episode. There it is, the book. Hey, Chris, so why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your book. We'll get this thing kicked off.
Yeah, I've been in sales and marketing for, my whole life. I actually was selling like CDs and blow pops when I was in junior high and high school. I've always had an entrepreneur mindset. And I ended up working for two billionaires, which was crazy. I worked for the guy that discovered NSYNC and the Backstreet Boys. His name was Lou Pearlman.
Whoa.
And I did phone sales in a boiler room when I was like 24 and broke and young and dumb. And I learned a lot of tactics and techniques that if you apply to good, are very legit. But like these guys were like Wolf of Wall Street, boiler room, smile and dial type sales training. And so I took that experience and then I kind of used it for good. I worked for Quicken Loans, which is like the largest internet lead company in the mortgage space. I worked for Realtor.com, which was like the largest real estate search portal before Zillow came out. And then I started my own company called Curator. And we are a marketing company. We help people capture leads, turn the leads into appointments, and then turn the appointments into sales. So we build sales funnels. We do Facebook ads. We do email marketing. We design websites. We do landing pages. Basically everything that I covered in my book. My book is called The Conversion Code. It's actually a bestseller. It's on Audible. It's on Amazon. And it's been translated into 7 languages around the world because what people needed and what I thought they needed, at least in my experience, was a textbook. So a lot of business books are very philosophical and they kind of give you ideologies or philosophies. And I wanted to just give people the X's and O's. Like, here's everything that you need to do marketing and sales online the right way in a modern era. And it took off. So I'm blessed to have a best-selling book. I've written a couple other books in the meantime, but thank you guys for having me on. That's enough about me.
Yeah, it's super awesome to have you here, dude. Seriously, thanks for coming on. This is great.
Am I your first author?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
first author.
Cheers to that.
It's been a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners, but definitely our first author. This is awesome. We're really excited. So one of the things we were gonna do today was look at some websites, right? So why don't we?
Now?
Yeah, well, let's talk about before we get into that. Let's talk about like the main tenets of your book, right? Let's talk about like the main ideas behind it and kind of, what from a small business owner standpoint, from an entrepreneur standpoint, we should be focusing on. I know, like I have questions about like lead generation and stuff like that, but like what to do with the leads once we have them.
Yeah, well, there's a lot that goes into it. The 3 sections of the book are capturing the leads, which comes down to like website content, lead magnets, design, blogging, landing pages. And then basically you have things like text and email and CRMs, and those things can, turn the leads into a qualified lead. So you want to qualify leads. And if you can do that through technology, it's great. I know a lot of your audience probably doesn't like to sell. They don't necessarily love the idea of, calling 100 people to try to find a gig.
Right.
But then once you do get on the phone, there is a science to sales. Like there's a science to how you can have a conversation that leads to the outcome that you want it to be. And like I said, like a lot of the tactics, if you're using them for nefarious purposes, or if you sell bullshit, like it's probably not something that you would want to do. But if you are a legit business, if you believe in what you sell, I'll give you one of the core philosophies is enthusiasm. My coach told me the reason it ends with IASM is because I am sold myself. So a big part of sales is just being sold on yourself. I actually asked my sales guy one time, one of my top sales guys, I said, what is your favorite thing that you ever sold? And he said, the only thing I've ever sold is me. So that's a philosophy. But when it comes to websites, there's a study in the book that's fascinating where 10 women who were going through menopause were asked to buy pharmaceuticals online, and they had to look at 10 different websites, and then they had to choose one to actually buy it through. Like, with photography, you guys are getting a lead, but you have to remember with e-commerce, they make the sale. Like, they go all the way to the cart, Amazon, Shopify, they actually buy the item online, or they order, in this case, the pharmaceuticals. And at the end of the process, they asked the women, why did you choose the websites that you chose? Why did you choose one over the other? And there was a statistic that jumped off the page in the study was that 93% of the time, when they said that they didn't trust a website, they cited the design of the website for that lack of trust. Only 7% of the time did they cite the content or the copy or the words. So if you go to websites like Tiffany & Company, if you go to websites like the Marines, if you go to websites like Nike, design matters. And especially with what you guys do, like, you're trying to create their perfect day. You have compelling images, but a lot of times those images get put on a website and they kind of get lost in the shuffle. So one of the philosophies from the book is that design is king, because a lot of times you hear that content is king. Now, if you have a beautifully designed site and you actually create great content, that's going to give people a reason to visit your website that maybe aren't quite interested in buying yet, but they want to learn from you. But at the end of the day, design matters. And I'm excited to look at these people's sites because, people want beautiful photos of their wedding day. I've seen some of you guys' work. It's great. The most important day in somebody's life. The pictures are everything. Videography, I'm guessing, is also a big part of what you guys do. So yeah, you have to be willing to build a beautiful website. You have to be willing to have some landing pages and some calls to action. You have to get people to kind of fill out forms and contact you. But what I want your audience to remember is that if you have inbound leads, it's okay to do outbound prospecting. Like, what you don't want to do is you don't want to be calling the phone book. But if you're calling people that are interested in your services, that is really your job. And I wish they would just book the whole wedding online, but I'm guessing sometimes they're shopping around. Sometimes they want to talk to a couple different photographers. Like you guys mentioned, they might need the date, like check your availability. So your website should be a salesperson. Think of your website as the first touch with the sales department. And if your website does a really good job, when you actually end up on the phone with them, it shouldn't be a very difficult conversation. It should really just be logistics.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. We actually talk a lot about our in-person, when we do like bridal shows and stuff like that, where we meet up with people, we kill it because we, a couple of us do like a really good job communicating like, hey, when you're, spending your day on your wedding, you're spending most of your day with your spouse and us, right? Like, you need to jive with our personalities. You need to do that. Getting that across. We've actually talked about some leads we've lost where we did not communicate that exact kind of stuff properly. We didn't say, hey, this is our personalities. This is what we do. This is the stuff we can offer. And Ted, specifically, you were asking for feedback from the couples that didn't book to say, hey, why was that? And there's things that they left that we actually do, but we didn't communicate properly.
So we immediately took to our sites and revamped all of that to be like, all right, we have to drive this home. Like, we're doing something wrong communication wise. But yeah, dude, I love the fact that you talked about sales being like, you have to sell something you're sold on already. I think that's one of the keys that a lot of people don't realize. Like, my first sales job was selling things that did not work or solve the solution that the people needed. And I would sell the thing that did, but it didn't have the highest profit margins. So we would get in trouble for it. And I hated sales for that reason. Yeah. And then when we started our companies, it was like, oh, wow, we can only sell what we want. And like, then sales go through the roof that way. Like, I don't know. I think that's really cool.
Yeah. The product matters.
Yeah.
The product in this case is you.
Yeah.
So if you're not sold on your skills, go back to photograph school.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if it's me, that means it's underwhelming at best, but I can sell that still. So
yeah. But I like what you said. Like, it's not just the pictures, it's the personality. You're going to be trailing these people all day. I do think that the chemistry matters. Some people probably want somebody that's out of the way and it's kind of like a ghost and you don't notice them. Some people probably want somebody to almost be like an extension of their support system.
Right.
You know, because you do have such close proximity to them throughout that experience.
And I think in a lot of the wedding areas, in a lot of the industry, especially in our area, there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of really, really great photographers, great videographers, great florists, and things like that who have a lot of great content. So just putting up like pretty pictures, like you're saying, the design has to be right so that it's not just photos that you get lost in. It's more saying the right things, leading them the right direction, getting the right message across, I would say.
Yeah.
You want to connect with the person. You know, you want them to feel like they're learning about you and your services. And a lot of times that's hard to do. So like copy does matter. You know, I think one of the techniques that we use in marketing is called show me that you know me. You know, who are the people like me that you've worked with? I'm hoping that when we look at the websites, you know, it feels like testimonials are something that would be a huge part of every website. Like who already hired you that loved what you did and that gushed over the experience, because it's easy to just show the pictures of the wedding. But like you said, there's a lot of competition.
Yeah.
You know, you have to kind of almost operate, I would guess, as if everybody takes great pictures. So what else do you bring to the table? What's the value add beyond the pictures themselves?
Yeah, that's a good point. Now, one of the things we focus on, I'd be interested to see your thoughts on this, is we don't try to sell everyone, if that makes sense. We kind of try to narrow down to that like client that wants the way our branding is set up, our experience is set up, and we really sell to them and kind of let the others fall by the wayside. Is that maybe an industry specific thing? Is that a bad thing? Or what do you think about that? Is that maybe because of the way we work? Like it's such a not high pressure situation, but it's a like, you know, it's important, if that makes sense. It's not a car or a house, or it's one day like that you get. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, there's a technique in sales called go for no.
Okay.
You know, you're trying to talk people out of working with you. I think if you have the luxury financially to hand select your clients, you should. You know, you should only work with people that you truly want to work with. Now, the reality is a lot of times we go into this thinking the opposite. Like, I hope they want to work with me.
Right.
But I think that swagger is important. You know, I hope I want to work with them. Because what happens is when you know, and you guys probably already know this when you're talking to people, you know when it's like the perfect fit. Yeah. You know when you're going to enjoy the day. You know when the job is going to be a home run. So what happens is like you sit up in your chair a little bit when you know it's the right person. You know, you fix your shirt a little bit. You know, you straighten your tie a little bit, because when you know that they're the perfect client for you, and when you know you're going to enjoy the work, you should try to double down and work harder to earn their business. At the same time, like I talk to people, like I still do sales for our company right now. And if I get on the phone, like I got on the phone with this lady the other day, and she's all over the place and she's doing all this stuff and she's in her car and she's barely paying attention to me. And her website was a wreck. She had no strategy, but she was kind of married to her existing systems. She wasn't open-minded to changing. So like within like probably like 8 minutes of the call, I said, ma'am, we're not going to be the right company for you. Like you're a mess. I don't think we can help you. And I don't think we want to help you. And what you'd be surprised, that's called the takeaway. That's like a technique called the takeaway.
Okay.
All of a sudden she's like, no. You know, I want to work with you. How does this work? I'm sorry. I'll listen. Tell me what to do. Because a lot of times what I'll do is like, if somebody gets on the phone and they act like they know everything, and, you know, we call them a Nancy know-it-all, like kind of like a buyer persona.
I like it.
If they know everything, I'll just ask them like, why are we on the phone?
Right.
Why are we having this conversation if you know so much? I call it the WebMD syndrome, where people have so much access to information that they know what the ailment is and they know what the cure is before they even go to the doctor.
Yeah.
And imagine being a doctor and all day long your patients are coming in telling you what they have, telling you the prescription they need.
Yeah.
Like you're the expert. there's a couple like graphics in the book, and it says you're in charge. Like, this is your sale. Like, you do this all the time. These people are literally not most people, but in a perfect world, you only get married once.
Right.
You only have one wedding.
Not statistically.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say my dad's had 4. I hope he's not.
We like him. We like him.
Yes, he's on his 4th one.
Repeat discounts.
Exactly.
Okay.
Repeat customer.
Repeat business. You could get him like a punch card.
I like it.
That's
good stuff.
Is that good marketing tips? We should try that, Mike, now.
Do it, Ted. Do it.
Yeah, you should give people like half off their second wedding.
I like it.
Yeah.
That's funny. So that's something we actually do talk about quite a bit as an industry, because we're a creative market. People seem to come in, and I think it's from dealing with other service-based industries. People come in and they'll say, like, almost like they want to tell you how you're going to provide your service.
Right.
And Mike talks about this all the time. It's like, hey, this is what I have in my contract for a reason. This is how I do business. I'm not going to change my total style. I had somebody today ask me about, hey, instead of this, can you give me more of this? And it's not, for nothing extra. I'm like, well, no, this is how I run my business. And if you want to step up to this is how it's going to be. You don't have to, you're not a slave to the customer. You gotta be iron with that. And it's hard for a lot of creatives, especially introverts, to want to push back on that and say, right, I'm sorry, this is how I do it.
Yeah, I appreciate your concern, but there's a reason that I do it the way that I do it. They're hiring a professional. Don't forget that word, professional.
Right.
You guys are professional photographers. Like, the craft. They don't. Now everybody has an iPhone, right? So everybody probably thinks they can take good pictures, especially with the wide angle lens. But the reality is that and I would set all of these expectations up front. I love that you have it in the contract. Like, there's a reason that you do business the way that you do it, and it's so that they get the best experience possible. At the same time, sometimes there's wiggle room for negotiation, of course, if it makes sense for both parties.
Right.
Can I ask you a question, Chris?
Nope.
Nope.
No, I'm just kidding.
Get out.
Technically, that is a question.
That's it. Moving on.
So maybe you can help point me in the direction of what to look for. So we've talked about this several times before. I don't know how, but we tend to find the clients that are perfect for us. So I don't know if necessarily it's the price point we're in, because we're not in the bottom and we're not in the very, very top. We're in the middle somewhere. But I think it's also having something to do with the copy on our websites, the way we respond to emails, the pictures themselves, because they tell a story about us, specifically. But there's something magical, because I've only had one Bradzilla ever in 8 years. And I don't necessarily know the formula of why it's working so well, but it is working so well. We have the most amazing clients ever that book us. And I'm sure that has something to do with what we're doing, but I'm not exactly sure what that is.
Well, you attract what you put out. I haven't taken the time to look at your Instagram and look at your content marketing and look at your, portfolio. But I think at the end of the day, like, you attract what you put out. Like, we have done a podcast for a long time at my company, and during the podcast, we're kind of like you guys. It's very laid back. We curse, we drink, and like, guess what? Our clients, they curse, they drink. Like, if somebody's a little bit too stuffy, like, if you don't like us on the podcast, you're not going to like us as your marketing company.
No.
Right.
So I do think it's really like, just, you have to be okay repelling people if you want to attract people. So my guess is that it isn't that you're attracting the right people. It's that you're also pushing away the wrong people. How do you do that? My guess would be like, your personality comes through, or your portfolio is just on point. Like, a lot of photographers, they have their own style, they have their own vibe. And I could see how people would just be really sold on how you take pictures and sort of the way that you operate. It seems really easy to me to sell somebody before they call you, but I don't know, man, bro, you be lucky, knock on wood. How about that? Like, I bet a lot of the people watching are like, shit, I wish I only had one Bridezilla.
we've seen it in working as subcontractors for like big wedding, like when it's wedding factories, but yeah, like things like that where it's like they pump out hundreds of weddings a year, and it's usually like packages of DJ, photo, video, all those kind of things. Where the clients, and this is where I'm kind of guessing where it may come from, but they seem to care less about what we specifically do. And I feel like if a client's reaching out directly to us, maybe they care more about what we're doing, right? They trust us almost already because they're like, oh, I like what this person does, I'm reaching out to them.
Yeah, that's the beauty of inbound marketing, is when you have a lead that's coming to you, you have all the leverage. Like when I used to work in phone sales for Quicken Loans, they would have about half of their leads that would come in through quickenloans.com, or that would respond to like a radio or a TV ad. And about half the leads they would buy. And they would buy the leads from websites like LendingTree or from websites like lowermybills.com. And the difference is, like, if a lead comes in through LendingTree, the whole point of that lead source is that they're shopping around 5 different lenders to try to find the lowest rate possible. If they come from lowermybills.com, it's the same thing. As soon as that lead comes in, it goes to like 7 different companies at the same time. And then everybody like pounces on their grenade and everybody starts calling them. So that the beauty of inbound marketing is that you're the only person following up with them. Now, I'm guessing sometimes you might be getting shopped with like one other person or maybe 2 other people, kind of like a real estate agent. A lot of times people that are selling their home, we work with a lot of realtors, they may interview like 2 realtors, or they might interview like 3. And in that case, you've got to win the sale. And that comes down to salesmanship and showmanship and all the stuff that's in my book, like the right talk track and taking control of the conversation. But for the people listening, like the best leads in the world, there's 2. Referrals, right? Like I'm sure you guys love those. Yep. Like, hey, you did a photograph, you shot my friend's wedding. Can you chat? I don't know that there's a better lead than that. And then the other ones are just the ones from your website. So like if you're doing like Google pay-per-click or Facebook ads, like I'm a huge believer in those lead sources for the right people. But the more organic the lead is, the better the lead's going to be. So my guess is that you're not doing a lot of advertising. You're not actually paying for the leads. The leads are coming to you in a very organic and natural way. And that's why they're the right fit.
Sometimes one of the reasons we get lucky too is we do a lot of bridal shows where we set up a booth and have a display going, and we just goof off and act like ourselves the entire time. And those people that we end up booking us, they cite our personalities every time. So that's one way that we kind of bypass the internet section of it and we just go right to the person, and they love meeting us and interacting with us, and the photos and videos look great. So they end up booking us that way too. So
yeah, the trade show, if the trade shows are working, do the trade shows. And I do think you're right. Like people are going to buy into you as much as they're going to buy into the pictures, because the reality is that I guarantee if we look at all these websites, they're all going to have good pictures. Everybody's going to put their best pictures they've ever taken. Everybody's going to put their, best foot forward, their A+ weddings. And then it probably just comes down to the person. So I think if you feel like your personality is a big part of the reason that people hire you, the question becomes, is that personality something that I can get a feel for on your website? Right. Like, are the pictures of you on your about page as good as the pictures of the bride? Because sometimes that's something that actually can really humanize you. Like, go take some good pictures of yourself.
Right. You know what's funny? I just started split testing pictures of myself, and because I don't have the face for weddings always. So to soften my image a little bit, I started showing pictures of me and my dog that are professionally done. So it was like, I don't know, it's working though. Like if people are like, oh, I have a dog too, I should hire him. I don't think it works like that, but it's working.
Pets, babies, food.
Yeah, they like it.
And there's like 4 things that the internet is made for. And,
now,
mine are all
cats.
My kids,
what is it?
It's and stuff.
It's cats, kids, food, and feet pics. I think is the
Listen,
it used to be.
I'll try anything. I don't know if I'm putting feet pics up on my site.
Wait, Tommy, I thought
Hey,
you
have
are
you
like
tried it?
super against foot pics. You're like scared of feet pics, aren't you?
No, man, I'm in.
Is that you?
Now,
All right,
because of the
all right.
coronavirus, I'm in. I saw a post the other day that said, "Hey, if I ever denied sending you feed pics, I'll do them now for 50% off."
So the site is only part of it, though, right? That a lot of people in our industry have great sites, and then the big lacking is what happens when they inquire, right?
Yeah.
Because they don't know how to take that funnel from a lead to like a qualified lead to booked.
Yeah.
Because like you said, we were talking about before, a lot of people, they don't believe in following up. They most, and I don't know, I feel like this is something you talk about. They don't have, I know script is probably the wrong word, but they don't have a script that bangs out their most efficient way of communicating with them. A lot of it is written from the hip every single time. The calls are from the hip, and then they wonder what's broken, and they can't really tell what's broken because they have no way of measuring it. That's a big
you don't
part,
you
right?
don't want to really wing it. You know, you can wing it, and some people have the gift of gab.
Right.
Like, I'll be honest, I get on a lot of sales calls and I don't really even use my own script for my own book because I'm just good at this. But if you're not, if you don't have that natural personality, if you don't have that natural confidence, like the way I would say is like, I hate the word script.
Me too.
You know, it sounds like something that's repulsive. It sounds like the boiler room. But if you think about it as just like a framework, right? Like there's an order of things that you should cover, and you should cover them in the same order. And there should be like a flow to the call. Like, people appreciate that.
Yeah.
Like, people appreciate that you're not just shooting the shit, that you actually ask this question and then this question and then this question, and it kind of naturally leads. Think of it more like an application, you know, than a script. Like, for me to figure out if I'm the right photographer for you, I need to ask you a series of questions.
Right.
And if those questions can lead us to making a decision as to whether or not we're going to be a right fit, you know, that's going to be the best use of your time on the call. Yeah. So, you know, you can wing it. And some people, like, again, if the person's sold, they're like, hey, I saw your website, I saw your pictures, I love you, is this date available? Wing it. But if they're shopping around, if it's a little bit more of a casual lead, you know, you're going to want to be a little bit more structured with the call.
Right. Yeah, I love it. I'm totally for having a system in place and stuff like that.
Yeah, when I was in the sales, you know, when you're like a sales guy, they actually have a sheet of paper in front of you. And it's like, hi, my name's Chris. I'm with Quicken Loans. Can I talk to Susie? Hey, Susie, how are you? So did you inquire because you wanted to lower your payment, or are you thinking about selling your home? Okay, yeah. Great. Well, first we have to figure out if you're like, there is that like nerve-wracking that like you're going to sound scripted. Right. I actually worked for a company called Dial America. Okay.
That sounds fun.
And like, I literally, that's what we did. We dialed America. And when it was one of these like credit card companies where you would get 2 free round trip flights for signing up for this credit card. And there was like this like paragraph and a half that we had to read on a recorded line. And if we didn't get through the whole thing, you weren't allowed to like make the sale. And if they stopped you at any point during that like paragraph and a half, you had to like start over and read it again. So,
that's
you
rough.
know, there are scripts like that, which nobody wants to touch.
No.
Yeah.
But think about it as like, what are the best possible questions you can ask? Yeah. And just ask those every time. And sometimes you forget what they are. So having them on a notepad, even if you just have like a little whiteboard with like 5 or 6 bullet points, and you cover those bullet points, like how I work, what your goals are, any questions, like having an outline, having a framework can be really helpful.
You know, it's so funny. I call it a script, but it's literally like 5 or 7 questions. I probably stole it from you. Makes sense now. And every time I do it, it's set up in a way that it has the couples feel like they weren't sold to. Like they feel almost like they're driving it, but they're really not. It's through the questions I'm asking, and it gets us from point A to point B, and we've covered it all, and you're sold by the time we're at the end, or you're not, and then I have more work to do. But it usually works so well. Like, I love it.
Yeah, and the reality is that the best script gets them talking.
Yeah.
Like the best conversation, like we have a technology that we were using for a while called Chorus. and it's Chorus.ai, and it analyzes conversations between salespeople and leads.
Ooh,
and then
I
it
like
basically
that.
looks at like what percentage of the time was the lead talking versus the salesperson talking. And it allows you to like jump to certain parts of the conversation where you discuss price, where you discuss competition. It's super cool. Well, what we learned was that our top salespeople, when they were doing literally a sales demo, right? Like you would think that like if you're giving a demonstration of your software, that you would talk the whole time. But the reality is they were only talking about 60 to 70% of the time. The lead was talking for like 30% of the call.
Oh, nice.
And then when we looked at our bottom salespeople or our brand new salespeople, they were talking for like 90% of the time.
Yeah.
So when you can measure that sentiment and you can say, hey, Jeremy, Neil sells more stuff than you. And when Neil does a call, the lead is talking 30 to 40% of the call. When you do a call, they're only talking 10% of the time. So you've got to let them talk. And the way that you get people to talk is you ask great questions, to your point.
Oh, I love that.
Hey, we're talking about calls a lot. Is that what you would say is like the preferred follow-up? Like once they reach out, once the lead comes in, is getting them on the phone super important, or is email follow-up better? I mean, what do you think nowadays?
Yeah, I mean, I think that conversations are what create customers. So if, you know, the quicker and the faster you can get them on the phone and start talking to them, the better. And then the longer you talk to them, the better.
Yeah.
Because people don't want to talk to salespeople. They definitely don't want to talk to two. So like at our sales funnel at Curator, every lead that we talk to, Sarah from our team, she talks to them, she figures out what their goals are. She figures out what their technology is they're using now. She figures out what their team structure looks like, what their budget is. And she usually spends like 15 or 20 minutes kind of qualifying them and talking to them. She then schedules them for another 1 hour demo with me. And so because they're like so invested with her, and then they're so invested with me, people don't want to waste their time.
Right.
You know, nobody wants to waste their time. So the longer you can get them talking, the better. But the reality is that the method of follow-up is usually dictated by the volume of leads, okay? So if I'm generating like tons of leads, that's where things like text messaging and email marketing, like having some automation in place can be really helpful. But I also think that like if you have a website with a form and people fill out the form, that autoresponder that goes out can be really powerful. So like you may have a form where they fill it out and they just put in name, phone number, email, submit, and you can have an email go out automatically that says, hey, thanks for, you know, reaching out to us through our website. What is the date of your wedding? And that can be automated so that you don't have to stop and type it every time. But just think to yourself, like when you get a lead, what would you text them? What would you email them? And then if there is a way to sort of let technology do some of that work for you, what we try to do is we try to use the automation and the emails and the text to get them on the phone. So, hey, thanks for reaching out. Is now a good time to call you? So that might be a text message that we send to every lead, but the whole point of that is to get them to say, yes, now's a good time, or no, call me back later.
Yeah.
The best method is the phone, especially for what you guys are doing. Get them on the phone, get them talking. Absolutely.
And with the emails, like when we're sending it out, I'm assuming you're a fan of shorter emails, right? Shorter communications to get them to the phone. I know before reading your book, I had these long emails that sold me. They didn't. And I would send them. And after reading your book, it's literally like, hey, thanks for reaching out. Here's a link, like basically to get them on the phone. And we have a really high conversion rate of getting those people onto the phone, and then the sales process works. What are your thoughts on that? Like, should it be shorter? Should it be a little longer? What's like the right answer there?
Yeah, I mean, there's a technique in my book called the 9-word email, you know, and it basically just says, hey, do you still need a photographer? Because you don't waste anyone's time.
Right.
You know, they can answer quickly. It's a yes or no answer. Like what you're probably doing is like, hey, thanks for reaching out. Click here to schedule a time so that we can go in depth about the needs and goals of your wedding. But yeah, like if you think about to yourself, because people are inundated with emails. Like the statistics about emails are ridiculous. 147 emails a day is the average number that people get. So what happens is when you open up an email that's 3 or 4 paragraphs,
Yeah.
it's a lot of times you're not even going to read it. And then by the time some people do read it, they don't even get to the end of it.
Right.
You know? So I am a fan of brevity. There's a great quote. Gosh, I'm going to forget who said this, but I think it was Mark Twain. And he says, I didn't have time to write a short letter, so I wrote a long letter instead. You can keep things brief. You know, respect people's time, respect their inbox, keep it short and sweet. And especially because you can link to more information. You know, we call it the pull technique. You know, pull them into you, get them to reply to you. And the shorter the message is, the more likely they're going to respond.
Yeah, I love that. And that's it's more based on like human behavior, right? That's why it seems to work across all industries or whatever. Like that's a common problem we run into with our, coworkers is if something is based on science or human behavior or whatever, they like to say, oh, well, that works in this industry, but we're totally different. We're, a golden goose here where the rules don't apply, but that doesn't seem to be true.
I think all people are overall sick of their inboxes being overloaded with crap. I don't think that that's an industry issue. I think that's a human being issue, especially now. Like, how many COVID-19 emails am I going to get? Like,
I was going to ask you about that.
Dude, I know what Wawa's doing for COVID-19.
It's like every company has an opinion on this. Yeah. And there are some companies where it's very relevant. Like if you're Postmates, if you're Uber Eats, like it's kind of relevant. If you're like Papa John's and you're dropping the pizza off on the doorstep, it's kind of relevant. But like, I don't really care what Nike thinks about COVID-19.
Yeah, I got emails from like a shoe company that I bought shoes from years ago. Like, I don't.
So somebody was talking the one day about like COVID-19 almost being like a dirty word. They're like, hey, when you're talking to your clients, there's already negative stuff going on with weddings getting canceled. We're seeing a huge impact in our industry because you can't get together. People can't get together, right? So they're canceling weddings for months out, and you're getting people who are scared and preemptively canceling weddings. It's a major blow. Would you specifically address it? Like, would you reach out to clients, going further, like, or is that something you would stay away from when you're following up to say like, hey, let's just talk about what the plan is. So when a lead comes in for 2 months from now and we're still not sure if weddings are going to be back on by then, bring it up, don't bring it up. What kind of stuff would you do?
I think I think for what you guys do specifically, it has to be talked about.
Yeah.
It's going to be so on the top of their mind that, ignoring it is probably not the best strategy.
Right.
I think at the end of the day, them deciding to schedule the wedding or not with the uncertainty is not necessarily a photographer issue. Like that's really them rolling the dice on a number of things. I would say I would probably address it. I would ask them, like, if that date doesn't work, like, what's your backup plan? You guys, it's sad because, a wedding is like kind of like the ultimate social gathering.
Yeah.
And so I think that there's a lot of empathy that you could create. And this is where I would actually go really long. If I were to send an email to all of my leads and it weren't going to be this like short and sweet email, I would probably go really deep on the fact that like, I'm sorry, I'm sorry that your wedding had to get rescheduled. I'm sorry that you don't know exactly when you're going to be able to have it, but I know when you have it, I'm going to be there for you and we're still going to be in business. So I think with what you guys do specifically, you probably would want to preemptively bring it up.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Hey, I have a question. Someone keeps asking it in the chat. We hear this a lot. Getting people on the phone. It's something not a lot of people are not, I wouldn't say good at, but one of the things they see is it's hard to get millennials on the phone sometimes. They'll give us the runaround with a million reasons on why they don't want to get on the phone. Any tips or tricks on how to do that efficiently or effectively?
Yeah, there's a stat in the book, and it's sad, but it's just true. Like when you reach out to a lead to call them, and you try to reach out to them, first of all, you have to respond really quickly.
Okay.
Like if you follow up within 5 minutes compared to within 30 minutes, your contact rate is increased by 100x.
Okay.
So like when you have their attention and they fill that form out and they hit submit, if you can reply really quickly, that's huge. You know, waiting 30 minutes, like they've already gone back on Instagram and they've gone back on Facebook and they've started texting their friends again.
Yeah.
So like the speed to lead is critical, getting back to them quickly. But the other thing is what I call tenacity. Like, unfortunately, you're going to call people and they're not going to pick up.
Right.
And there's a stat that Salesforce, you know, studied all these different small businesses doing all this lead follow-up. And if you follow up with a lead 6 times, you actually have about a 93% contact rate. If you follow up with that lead 1 time, it's about a 45% contact rate. So each additional attempt is going to increase your chances of getting them on the phone. I don't know that honestly, at this point, I don't know if that's a millennial thing or if that's just like a people thing. Like if you get a call from someone's number that you don't recognize, the most natural thing to do is ignore the call.
Yeah.
Yep. That's what I do.
And hope that they don't leave a voicemail.
Dude, I'm the worst at this. They'll tell you they're my best friends, and if they're calling me and I answer, I hope it's so they're saying their hands are on fire and that's why they didn't text me this question. Like, I'm literally the worst with answering the phone.
Wait, you've picked up a phone call from us before?
Yeah, I did the other day.
I'm telling you what. This pandemic has him scared. He's answering the phone. He's calling back. It's insane. It's the craziest shit I've ever seen.
Only
if I was dying on the side of the road, he wouldn't answer the phone. Like,
but
just
that's not
text it to
true.
me.
That's not true in business. In business,
No.
I do all the calls and stuff totally different.
That's
but
true.
Personal life,
Yeah, he just doesn't give a shit about us.
Well, it sounds like you are the person you're describing, right? You're kind of that millennial that's ignoring the call. If people want to text, let's text. But I'll give you a technique that works really well.
Okay.
When you call a lead and they don't answer, you should call them again immediately. So like if you get a call from a number that you don't recognize and you ignore it, and then like 10 seconds later, that number calls you again, that's called the double dial. We teach that in the book. You all of a sudden think like, shit, this is important.
Yeah.
Right. And the other thing is typically like telemarketers and like if you get like robocalls from like political companies, they don't call you twice in a row. Like I know for me, if I get a call and I miss it and then I get another call, it's like, this is really important. Like this must be urgent. And again, I'm talking about applying this technique to people that inquired to be contacted.
Right.
I'm not saying to just like grab the phone book, call somebody and they don't answer, call again. Mm-hmm. You're calling someone who asked to be contacted. Now, if we have to text a little bit, let's text. You know, I got no problem texting with people if they prefer that, but you're probably not going to close the sale through text. And if somebody's getting married and you're going to be their photographer, you are going to have a conversation with them. Yeah. So I kind of look at it as the phone call is number 1, the text is number 2, and then sometimes they'll, email me more information. That's kind of the third most favorite method.
Yeah. So before we, I want to finish up on that one thought, but before we move on to the next thing, that's what's been working really well for me. I know Tommy's knows I'm itching at the bit to talk about this, but for like 2 months ago, mm-hmm. I forget. It was James, our friend James. We're in a photography group in South Jersey, and we share tips and tricks with each other all the time. And I was telling people what are my problems, and they're saying, "Oh, as soon as you get an inquiry, email them back with pricing, but then you should text them right away as well." And I adopted this, and it's instantly worked. What I tell them is, "Hey, my name is Ted Felsberg from Felsberg Photography. I just received your inquiry, and I sent you back some pricing information. I always like to text people and say hi. And lately, my emails have been going into spam folders, which is half true. That's like one of the reasons I started it. Do you have time for a phone call today or tomorrow?" And like most of the people that have contacted me 5 minutes ago with an email respond back with text message, and we get on a phone call that day or sometime that week. And that's been working so well because you're right. Like they want to talk to us. They're going to spend thousands of dollars with us. Plus, too, it's reversed. Like we want to talk to them to make sure they're a good fit for us, like you said earlier. That's been working really well for us.
There's a stat about this that 95% of text messages are read within 30 seconds of being received.
Yeah.
But if you look at emails, like in the real estate industry, the average open rate of an email is 18%.
Oh my God. That's brutal.
It isn't that you shouldn't send emails. And if you have an inbound lead and you get back to them quickly, I think the email open rate can be a lot better. But texting works. It's funny that you say that, though, because a lot of the people that I teach, they have this mental hurdle that like texting is inappropriate for business.
Yeah.
Or it's like you shouldn't text message someone because it's for business. And I'm glad that you pointed that out, that it's working. Because what I like to do is stuff that works. And I'm not married to my way of thinking. I'm married to like what works. And if people are willing to text with me, and if you're willing to get them on the phone, like I love what you're doing. You're using a technique called the slot close. Is today or tomorrow better for a call? Can I call you back now, or would you rather chat later today? Kind of giving people those two clear choices.
Yeah, that's so awesome.
Hey, so why don't we take a look at some websites?
Yeah, I'm excited and I'm nervous for this. You guys
don't be nervous.
Yeah, I feel like I hope the people's websites that we're looking at are watching.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know this first one is. All right, so the first one we're going to look at is Jenny Green. And I'm going to try and drag this over a little bit.
We just had her on our podcast recently too.
Yeah, so she was our first insurance broker.
Who's also a photographer.
Who's also a photographer, which was pretty cool to talk about business insurance and all kinds of fun stuff like that.
Yeah.
All right, so, and then I'm going to give you control of my computer.
Assuming control. Oh, we just went Mass Effect on it.
Right?
Yes, this is fancy. This is high tech. So let me make sure I have control here. There we go. I'm scrolling. Got it. Nice. So I'm going to give you my first honest impression is I like the photo, but that's not a photo that everyone's going to like. It's a night shot, the fireworks, like part of what I think might go into somebody's mind is like, I ain't doing that. Like we ain't doing the firework march of shame. I think it's a beautiful picture though. It doesn't quite capture the bride and groom. I probably would use something that like really like maybe was a little bit better of a shot of them. But the thing about this website that is something that a lot of people do, and it's something that I would really go back and rethink. Look how many options there are at the top. So you've got details, which not really sure what that means.
Mm-hmm.
The work, like that's probably the portfolio. You've got about, you've got venues, like friend doors. Not really sure what that means.
I think that's a play on words with vendors.
You know what? This is actually really cool because we talk a lot about seeing people from outside the industry, which will be most of our clients, how they'll actually view this, like seeing this live right now. That's awesome.
Yeah, this is just for me personally. Like if I were Jennifer, I would look at those tabs and those different options, and I would really say, which ones do I really need? Because the more options you give people, the less they'll choose any of them. Like what are the pages on your website that cause people to hire you? And really try to highlight those the best that you can. Like clearly every website should have a contact page. A lot of websites have a blog. Some of these other things, what you can do is like in the footer, because if people don't know where to go on your website, they go down here.
Mm-hmm.
So I like how down here she's got read the blog. Follow the adventures. I guess this is her Instagram stuff.
Hey, question. Contact form on the first page. Good idea, bad idea? What's the deal with that?
Yeah, I don't think it, I mean, listen, I bet it doesn't get filled out a lot. That's usually kind of an idealistic place to place it. You want people to be able to find it though. So at least she's got one. And at least if somebody's scrolling, they can find it. One thing I would do here, the featured on, I actually like it when you use like cleaner icons. Like see how this one has like the white background, this one's black, this one's white, this one's the little circle, this one you can't hardly read over here on the far right. What I would do is I would take all those icons and I would turn all of them white and make them look the same and make it look really clean in one solid line. They're all sort of different sizes and different shapes and stuff like that. But I do like that. Let me go back to the top. I like the copy. You've planned every detail. Let me capture the emotions. I like the copy. Let me go into details. I'm interested to see. Okay, so this is a scrolling site. Now I got it. So did you guys see what happened there?
Yeah.
It's not actually, it wasn't actually another page. It's actually a one-page website that just keeps scrolling. And it yeah, so it scrolls to the different parts. You know, I'm not against that all the way. This is actually a click that it looks like goes to another page. So if you go to venue. Oh, man.
I think that's like the preferred wedding venues that they shoot for.
I see.
Dude, I'm already learning a ton. I'm going to have
to
weed out my website buttons.
Yeah.
You're creating
so we didn't use our websites.
I was like, oh, man.
Traveling, dog-loving, comic book obsessed photographer. Yeah, I like that she's got personality. And I like this section. This is probably like the most important section. Yeah, I would make sure that, and this is something that I think anybody that comes to your website, I bet this scrolls down to the form. Yeah, this is a single page website that has like a scrolling functionality built in. It's not terrible. I would say this is the kind of website that gets the job done. My overall feedback would be less is more. So because there's so many choices, people don't really know where to go. Like the way that I would teach this would be on a phone. Like, I don't know what her website would look like on a phone, but there's no way that you would even be able to fit all of those choices. So like one of the rules on a phone is that you're never going to be able to give people more than 4 buttons just because of the size of the screen. So I would really think hard about these choices. Do people hire you because of your venue? You know, do people hire you? Well, that friend of yours is coming soon, so that section's irrelevant. I think people most times are going to hire you for 2 reasons. Your portfolio, so the work, like to me, that's a really important one. And then your about section. But what happens is if I click on the work, it actually goes past a lot of these pictures. So this kind of feels like the work, but then when you click on the work, it goes past that and it goes down here. Yeah, that's all my feedback on this one. Overall, like it gets the job done. If I were giving like a grade or something like that, or like a score, I would probably give it like a 7 out of 10, something like that. There's some things that are being done really well. There's some things that could be done better. The blog's not really, there's really not a blog.
Yeah, I believe this site was just finished yesterday.
Okay. Yeah, I would make sure that like, if you're gonna have a blog, have what we call pillar content, at least have maybe like 2 or 3 articles that you have on the site so that people can actually read at least a couple articles.
Okay.
But yeah, overall.
So you would recommend having that before, like, so that like hide that button, don't have it there until you have 4 things right there, boom, for people to read. Okay, cool.
Yeah, there's nothing to read. You know, this is like the most common blog post in the world. Hello world. That's actually the one that WordPress like starts it with. Oh, there's a comment. Yeah. Yeah, so some of this stuff is just obviously not quite ready for prime time. But overall, it's not a terrible website. I think it doesn't put enough of an emphasis on her actual pictures. Even when you go to the work, it's kind of like a one at a time thing. You know, you get to see one here. It would really take forever to scroll through these. I don't know. I feel like maybe you could break down the pictures into categories, like pictures of the bride, pictures of the groom, pictures of the party, outdoor, indoor. But this is kind of asking the user to like spend a lot of time on your website to see your work. Probably prefer a little bit more of a grid view like this stuff here. Anyway. Not bad, Jennifer Green. I like the one thing I like her logo. I like the logo with the mountains and stuff. I'm guessing she's in a mountain town. But yeah, overall, 7 out of 10, something like that.
Nice. That's respectable. I like it.
Yeah.
Oh man, this is fantastic, and I wish we did our websites too, because I'm so curious now.
Yeah.
Anyway, Thank you very much. Keep going.
All right.
Oh, here, let me see if I can. I want to get this refreshed a little bit so we can go from the start. There we go.
Yeah.
Hey, I have a question before we go. So with those buttons and stuff, do you think it would be smarter, instead of having a trendy name like Friend Doors or the details, to just go with words that the most people are going to know exactly what that is from the get-go, like on the buttons and stuff? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I don't like getting too cutesy. Okay. You know, I think that in a perfect world, it would be like one word each. You know, bio. I kind of like the work, but at the same time, maybe there's a disconnect with people, like the work. They don't like, I don't know. I think a lot of people, they're looking for a portfolio. I mean, that's like a pretty common word in you guys' industry?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I think that part of it goes back to what you guys said before. Like, I want your personality to come through, and you can kind of get cutesy, but some things are just too far in left field, like the Friend Door.
Right.
Definitely like on the chopping block, especially because it didn't even have any content. So then even if I did want to know what it meant, but just be really picky about the ones you use and the language that you use. You have about 7 seconds. There's a study in the book. You have 7 seconds to capture someone's attention and to get them to take action on the internet. People's attention span is actually less than a goldfish when they're on the internet. So if I can't figure out where to go and where to get in 7 seconds, then you're probably going to lose me. Yep. So this is murphystudio.net.
Yep.
So a lot of websites use this technique of a background video. Typically on mobile, that doesn't work because the device is so truncated down. I think my only complaint here is, like, if you're gonna do the video, like, why would you cover it with kind of this like transparent layer on the left here? You know, there's the lines going across the video, kind of covering the video. Like, if you're gonna go for it, go for it. The other thing is, you kind of have to crop the video. See how the girls' heads are all cropped off? Like that's, and this, they look like a little bit low in the video. If you're going to do a video, you got to really think about the framing of the video. I don't hate it. At the same time, it's not really meant for anyone to actually kind of watch the video. So the first thing I would make sure, if I were Murphy Studio, like, I hope that he does a lot of video work, because if that's not his prime thing, that shouldn't be the prime thing on his website. Now he's actually got, and it's a little hard to see that button where it says start here. He might want to fill that button in a little bit, so it's like a little bit easier to read and see. But if a website says start here, you got to think that that's where you should start. And now it scrolled down and it said start here again. So that's like 2 clicks to get to where he really wanted me to start. I document the big, bold moments in a couple's life all across the Northeast US. I don't understand the picture of the mountain here. I don't understand how that's relevant or important for a page like this. I like the picture of him. It looks good. I would probably make that the larger photo. This is a very unappealing picture. The sort of half mountain shot. So he's showcasing his family. So he's got his family, his travel, and that he's a veteran advocate. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I just don't see a lot of people digging this deep into the website. Like, where's the pictures? Like, where's the portfolio, you know? And now we see how we kind of get to it down here. So it says up here that he's a videographer and a photographer, but there's really nowhere to find pictures. And then this stuff is like so small, it gets lost. You see that? Yeah. Looking for something specific. These don't even look like they're necessarily clickable. They are clickable. So if I click on lifestyle photography, now I start to get into some of the pictures. But there's really no like album of pictures. And again, next step, hop on a call. And then if you get down to the bottom, now there's some galleries. So I think what he's doing is something that's pretty common. Like, he's burying the lead, you know, the stuff about him and the stuff about his life and his family. To me, that's not where people want to start. And he's saying to start there. Where people want to start is on the work that you've done. So I would try to put a lot more emphasis on the films and on the photos, a little bit less emphasis on the personality and the bio. I think at the point that you get people to this page, they're just going to get lost. And this is a good page to have, but this page, because of the calls to action, anyone that comes to this website is going to click start here. And then anybody that goes here, it's like, okay, start here again. And now he's taken me away from all of his content. So I think the navigation is probably the video looks pretty good. I
heard someone say once that consumers are selfish, right? They want to know like what's in it for me the whole time, right? So like, I'm looking for a specific thing. Show me what I'm looking for. Would you say that's true? Would you say like, putting your work first and foremost, like that's what they're looking for?
Yeah. I can't imagine why else they would be there. It's sort of like if you're a real estate agent, people are looking for homes for sale. Like 9 times out of 10, if somebody goes to a website that's in real estate, they either want to get their home's value or they want to look at listings. So you can't make that stuff hard to find. He does have a menu here. And actually, when you expose the menu, I like this. Meet Alan, wedding films, lifestyle photography, corporate photography. So I like the menu once it pops out. This is kind of the simplicity that I would be looking for.
Right.
But even here, I could see a lot of people getting here and thinking that there's only one picture. And then I actually thought that this was going to scroll to show more pictures. And this is actually his reviews. I would make sure, and I didn't see this on the last site or on this site, like I would make sure that you guys all have a dedicated page to reviews and feedback. I mean, there should be a testimonials or a reviews dedicated page. Here it kind of gets lost. I click on lifestyle photography. presented with one picture, also not the most compelling picture. You know, the guy looks like he had a bad day.
He's got that kind of face.
Yeah.
She looks happy. But yeah.
Or scared.
So a takeaway I'm getting from this seems to be, don't assume that they'll click on any pages. Don't assume they'll scroll far. Put what you want them to see up front and center. Punch them in the face with it from the get-go. Is that right?
Yeah, because look how long it took us to get to this stuff, which is the actual work.
Right.
Yeah,
I remember.
You have to have the most important stuff as easy to find as possible.
Yeah.
And he did get happier, so we got to go.
There you go.
There you go.
Alan put, definitely need to update my site now.
So you definitely talked about this in the book too. You use the phrase above the fold.
Yeah.
I mean, like on the newspaper, the stuff that's above the fold is like that front and center, the first thing you see, the first thing you're going to look at. And with the attention span of a goldfish, like, you know, we need to have something really quick right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Make it easy. Don't hide it. Don't bury the lead. You know, get people to your work as quickly as you can. Get people to testimonials as quickly as you can. Get people to contact me as quickly as you can.
The thing I was seeing on this site, it seemed like it was almost trying to capture the lead before showing any of the work. Because there were a couple spots in there where it said, you know, if you scroll down a little bit, it's like, get on a call or do this. And it's like, and then the work's below that.
Yeah.
And I don't know, you're the expert, but I feel like that would be important to show them what you want and get it there.
That's the photo. So on this page, it's his little photo is covering up him because he's in that photo with the mountain, but it's a cropped image here on the page right before this. It's not cropped, and you see he's holding a camera facing away. It looks really cool. But yeah, I see what you mean.
Makes sense.
Thanks, Ted.
All right,
Sound better when you said it.
Yeah. Next site.
All right. Awesome.
Hey, people are saying I could watch these website critiques all day.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I'm feeling good about my website, but also I'm so
brother.
curious about it.
Ted, we're not showing your website.
I know.
It's fun.
All right, cool.
He's just going to turn his camera off if he sees your website.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Like,
it.
no,
I'm
I'm out.
No, that guy.
It's just a Sasquatch.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right,
this is so much valuable information. Hey, before I forget, there was something I wanted to ask. We talked about having your personality come through, having your the enthusiasm piece, right?
Yeah.
There's a question that comes up in our industry all the time, and it's like, do I sound like a lunatic when I'm replying to the lead by using like 40 exclamation points and emojis and stuff like that?
It's not really 40.
No, it's not really 40, but like by overusing almost like every sentence is an exclamation point and like trying to get that enthusiasm across. What's your take on that?
Yeah. I actually have a 1 exclamation point rule.
Oh shit. Oh, we're fucked.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I think every one that you use makes all of them a little bit less important.
That's so smart.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Oh my God.
I think you don't want to appear maybe like too eager or
Manic.
Listen, there's nothing wrong with emojis. There's nothing wrong with, exclamation points. You know what I'm saying? But you don't want to seem overzealous, I would say.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good to know. I'm glad we finally got closure on that.
Yes. All right. So we're on Melissa's website.
Yeah.
I'll tell you the one thing I like about her site at first glance is I like that there's a lot of white space. It's very simple and clean. And by doing that, it really puts, the actual pictures front and center. Instagram a few years ago, they went to like a black and white interface. And a lot of people were like questioning why they did that. And it's like, because that's going to make the photos actually pop. So I like the white space. I would say the fonts are very small. So like, I feel like I have to almost like lean in to read any of those tabs. I would try to bump the size of those fonts up a little bit if I could, like where it says more than just photographs. These are your story, mentoring, faves, presets. This is another, navigation where there's just a lot, you know, there's a lot of tabs, there's a lot of calls to action, there's a lot of choices, and there's no like actually choices here. So there's no like buttons here that make it easy to know where to go. I don't really understand the free timeline guide. Stressed out about it during.
That's actually something I was going to ask about. Sometimes you'll see these. It's like a lead collection type thing.
Yeah.
I have one on my site. It's like free engagement session posing guide, something like that like pops up. What's your take on those? Useless or?
Well, it's got to be strong.
Right.
You know, I think the question that you would ask is it something that you would register for? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like this, I don't think is overly compelling. And even like, it's hard to tell because of the fonts and because of how small the words are. It's hard to tell that like that's even a button, you know? Yeah, I think that this website overall, like, I bet Melissa really likes it. Like, I feel like she built a website that she likes and that she made choices that were best for her. They're probably not the best choices for the person browsing the site. Presets, mentoring, like she at least has portfolio, but there's like about and info and portfolio and faves and presets and mentoring. It's just a lot of choices. So just, keep bringing those choices down. This kind of font choice to me is really hard to read. I think that says romantic. So I'm not really a fan of like cursive-y, kind of cutesy fonts. The readability of this site is the main issue. It's incredibly difficult to read. I feel like you would kind of need a magnifying glass to read most of this site.
Right, so it's like small fonts, not enough contrast between the background and the color of the font.
Yeah, the color as well. It's a good point. It kind of blends a little bit, which makes it harder to read. So it's a combination of it being very small and then there's not enough contrast. So like I'm a fan of the white space, but then it's almost like the color of the fonts is almost like brown or gray. It just makes it really hard to read.
Got it.
Yeah, that's all I got to say about this one. I don't want to go too deep on it. I do want to click on portfolio. Weddings, engagements, bridals. Yeah, this is tricky because I don't know how to get to the other pictures. It looks like you can scroll, but I'm clicking and it's not like going to the next photo.
It does look like you can scroll. I could see that.
Yeah. Yeah, you can. Okay, so you can grab it.
So it'd be like a swipe on a cell phone.
Yeah, it's like a swipe. It's a little tricky on desktop to navigate that. It might be more intuitive if I were on my phone.
That's a good point.
But I just think that, what's wrong with like a grid view of a bunch of photos? Like give me the grid view. And then when I click on one of the smaller ones, give me the bigger one, Right. I just feel like there's a lot of time that it takes to go through these.
I'm doing that with my portfolio, and I'm so happy to hear you say that because I wrestle with that all the time.
Right. I think for us, we see a lot of photographer sites. So you go like, oh, I don't want just another grid view like everybody else has. So it's good to get out of our own heads and see something like what you're talking about, where it's like, no, that's what like a non-photographer would want to see, right? They want to see just show me all the photos.
Clearly, people are going to want to see certain pictures in all their glory, and you can have grids that have bigger ones and smaller ones and what they call like a masonry view, where some are big and some are small.
Mhm.
But yeah, overall, not a huge fan of this website. It's trying to be a little too like wedding-y. But I guess that's what she does. So yeah, let's go to the next one.
All right.
I gotta say, font is the one thing that I think is so important, and I fail at choosing the right font every single time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thanks for that. I love that reinforcement.
Yeah,
Well, I don't know.
You dumb bastard. Pick a
Yeah.
font. It's not that hard.
I've never seen your font, so
Yeah.
that was a fake agreement.
Is that a problem you see in sites though, where it's like too many different fonts, or something that's just like people want more consistency, or do you want something that's eye catching? Or
Yeah, well, like if we look at the site that's up now,
Yeah.
it's incredibly easy to read these choices. You know what I'm saying? So like this is like kind of like a basic font, you know what I'm saying? But it looks good. Like it's easy to read about engagement and family. Now this website's kind of going all in with the grid view.
Yeah.
And it's just like nothing but the work.
All right, so there's a happy medium there somewhere.
Yeah, there's a happy medium. I think this kind of I don't know what to do here. Let me see what happens if I click on. Yeah, so this, to me at least, the experience of like seeing a bunch of photos and then having the grid view versus the large view, I think this is a little bit overdone. I don't think that you have to try to show off this many pictures. I would probably choose about, like half of as many are there. By trying to show me all of these, and by there being so many, I'm not really seeing any of them, if that makes any sense.
Right.
It
Your eye's
does.
not drawn to a specific spot.
Yeah, I don't know really where to look. And I'm guessing that like some of these pictures are probably better than others. But like some of them, like if you look at this one right here, there's this thumbnail doesn't really help me at all. Like see how like you it's really doing nothing for me.
Right.
So like this one with the girl with the bouquet and this one with the couple, like when it's a little bit larger like that, you can kind of see the picture. Some of these are just so tiny, like no one can tell what that is.
Right.
Yeah, this is I guess he probably does more weddings than engagement and family because there were more wedding photos. But yeah, I think that, on a couple of the other sites, we wanted to see more of a grid view. On this site, it's nothing but grid view. I will say that this website has like basically no personality.
So there's no, it seems like there's no copy like anywhere on there. There's no text.
Yeah, there's no copy. Let me click on about. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, the about page is pretty good. That's a great shot of her.
Mm-hmm.
I like how that's a big, beautiful photo. I'm interested what you guys think about putting the prices on the website versus having people inquire.
We're interested to see
hear
what you say.
Yeah.
Because I just removed mine.
Yeah.
Well, I could be honest with mine. My
go
take on it, honestly, is that I like to put the starting price at least, and then I throttle that by how many leads I'm getting. If I'm not getting enough leads, maybe take the price off. If I am, maybe show a little more information. What's your take on it?
Yeah. Well, I think you're dead on. If you've got more business than you can handle and you need to create kind of a filter, then I would put the price.
Okay.
I think that in traditional sales, what they teach you is that you have to build the value higher than the cost before you then ask them to buy. collections, I don't like that word at all. Collections start at 1,700. Sounds like a church plate.
Huh. That's so interesting here. There you go.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, because the typical word we use is packages, and it sounds so like not valuable. Like
it's
a package.
package, okay?
Yeah,
like maybe like I don't know, like sessions, maybe.
Okay.
Typically, couples spend between $2,700 and $3,500 on our services. Have a more intimate event, we can customize something for you. So even though there is the pricing, it's still like not that clear. It starts at $1,700. Typically they spend this much, but we can customize something for you. So not really laser focused.
Would you say go with starting or go with all, right? But pick one. Is that what you're saying, or?
Well, I think the starting price is probably the most important one for you guys, so that people know it's not $500 or $800.
Yeah.
I think packages start at, or sessions start at, makes sense.
Gotcha.
I don't think you have to sneak in the typically couples spend between.
What
at
do you
the
think?
Same time, you don't want to say 1,700 and then get somebody on the phone and then quote them 3,200. So
right.
What's your take on the use of investment? Because that's something that's been more and more prevalent.
Wording wise.
Yeah. So instead of just saying like packages, or instead of saying something like that, they say like investment. This is what you're going to invest in your wedding.
Yeah, I like that word. I think investment is always better than cost or fees.
Right.
What about no prices at all? Someone's asking. I know we kind of covered that, but there's a delay on the comments.
Yeah, I don't think that you have to put your prices. I think that people can guess how expensive you are based on your site. So if we went to all of these websites and we kind of judged them, you almost can kind of figure out like who's going to be really expensive versus who's going to be inexpensive. I think customers, as they're shopping around and doing their homework, they probably get an idea for like the cost, or, like you guys said, like low, medium, or high cost.
It's interesting.
But yeah, I don't know. I think let your work exude your price point.
Gotcha.
And by the way, on her site, right at the top, it says affordable and creative, right?
Yeah.
So she's already kind of marketing herself as affordable.
Yeah.
And that word is subjective. I don't know that $1,700 is affordable, depending on your situation. So, overall, not a huge fan of the left-hand navigation. Not a huge fan of just nothing but photos, but I do like her about page a lot. Yeah. This word here, like investment, putting it here, it doesn't make a ton of sense. It goes to a contact page.
Yeah, a lot of photographers do something like this. We see this a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, the other thing is, it's one thing to ask for a lot of stuff, but just keep in mind, the more fields you have, the less people are going to want to fill it out. Mm-hmm. So it's helpful for you to get all of this information, but it's not always something I would want to have to give all of this information. So obviously things like name, email, and phone number, you kind of need that. Date you could collect, but it just seems like a lot. Tell us about your wedding plans. What am I supposed to type there? We live for stories. Care to share yours? Like things like, how did you hear about us? That can be something that you ask, after you talk to them, versus making it another field. Not wedding related. Tell us more. So there's just a lot of fields, So just like with the menu, trying to really strip it down to the completely necessary tabs, I would apply that same logic to my contact forms as well.
Yeah, we had a guest on a couple episodes ago. I'm trying to remember exactly when it was, that talked about customer resource management software. Mm-hmm. And what I've done and a bunch of people we've talked to have done is they make these forms very simple and very short. Mm-hmm. And then the follow-up We have like intake forms once it gets a little further in where we get a lot more information. But you already have them on the hook. You're already communicating with them at that point, and then you can ask kind of more of this stuff.
Or you could do a 2-step form where it's like step 1, name, phone number, email, wedding date. Okay, great, submit. Step 2, tell us more about your wedding. And that way you at least capture the lead, even if they kind of bounce on the longer form.
Hey, that's cool.
That's a great idea.
That's brilliant.
Oh, we got
All right.
Abby.
Yes, Abby.
Abby. So I love the big, beautiful pictures. This is, you know, what he's doing is he's showcasing his best work. Now, it does appear that his niche is Indian weddings, at least from the first handful, and that might be the case. But if that's not all he does, he might want to mix some of that earlier photography. It also rotates really fast. It's almost like nauseating how quickly the pictures are changing. But he is doing a good job of letting the visitor see his best work without them having to do any work. So I like that. There's that word investment again. So he's got the why, the who, the what. That's a little cutesy for my taste, you know. I would have no idea which of these to click on. Like, he does have kind words, which is obviously like his testimonials. So it's nice to see that he's actually putting a spotlight on that. None of the other sites really did. It starts off really simple and clean above the fold, but it starts to get really complicated once you go down. And see right here, it says the what is the portfolio, right? The who is the about page. The why, I'm not sure exactly what he would put in there. Why choose us? Yeah, it gets a little bit messy as you start to scroll. There's a lot going on here.
How do you feel about that, like parallaxing effect? That's something a lot of people use with the things in the background and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it looks kind of good in certain cases. He's doing a lot of it. Like, he's doing it on every object.
So maybe less is more, like take that approach with parallaxing.
Yeah. Because like in this one, you can see how it's cutting her head off. I mean, I would have to see it on mobile to see what it did on mobile.
Yeah.
What do you
he did a good job here though of, you know, our packages start at 2,500. So he's making it crystal clear what his starting rate is.
So we had two questions. One was, would it, like a rotation of images like that at the top, let's say you were a videographer, that's another like major group of what we do. Would it be confusing for somebody if they're a videographer to have photos like that going instead of a video at the top?
Well, I think you have to kind of look at, the way I would think about it would be what percentage of your business is pictures and what percentage of your business is videos. And then your website should probably like reflect that, you know. If it's 50-50, the website should be 50-50. If the guy from Murphy, whatever, earlier, you know, his whole above the fold was a video. So I would hope that he mostly does video. Yeah. The website, it starts off really simple and clean. It gets really complex as you scroll. The parallax effect is kind of annoying as I go through it. It doesn't really add anything to the site. I think if there was less of it, it probably would work better.
There's a question. You can see up a little bit higher, it has like other work he does. So like portraits, editorial type stuff. I had gotten a recommendation from somebody a while back that said like, hey, if you want to do weddings, if that's your main thing, like just put weddings on your front page. Don't put other stuff. What's your take on that?
Well, it would go back to my take on the videos versus photos is what percentage of your business is that? So if 99% of your business is weddings, 99% of your website should be focused on that.
I love that
makes
idea.
sense. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think listen, if he's doing portraits and I don't even know what an editorial is.
Magazine stuff, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's editorial photography.
Okay.
It's like fashion photography, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So this kind of feels like when we have these cool new gadgets for photo, and we always say just because you could use it doesn't mean you have to use it all the time when it comes to like parallaxing and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's also a very long website.
Mm.
So I'm noticing a trend with like all these websites. They're all like a single page site that scrolls. None of them actually have additional pages. I don't know why people are against like having sub pages instead of having everything as this one long page.
Right.
But this is a lot to get through. The one other little note that I thought about with his and the others is Instagram is so important for photographers. Yeah. And if you're active on Instagram and you're posting like your newest stuff and your most recent stuff, like they have plugins that will bring your Instagram photos into your website. There's like plugins that'll embed your Instagram feed into your site. Mm-hmm. But I would be like, I'm guessing that like Twitter and Facebook and YouTube are probably not as important to photographers as Instagram. So I would try to put a little bit more of a focus on checking me out on Instagram if I was active on Instagram. But overall, this website kind of feels like a magazine is probably what I would say.
Got it. Is that something you want to do though? Once you have them on your site, do you want to bounce them to your Instagram, or do you want your Instagram to load on the page like you were saying with the plugins?
Yeah, I think if you could pull the feed from Instagram into the site, that's probably better. Okay. There's a lot of simple plugins that'll do that. But at the same time, there's a guy that he had a good quote. He said, the more you send people away, the more you give them a reason to come back. So I wouldn't be completely afraid. You can do things where it opens up in a new tab. That way it actually doesn't close your website for them to go visit it.
Okay.
But I just think like Instagram is like such a powerful social network for photographers that I'm surprised that there's not more of an emphasis on it.
Huh.
All right. 2 more.
Are you okay, Chris, with us doing 2 more? Or
yeah.
You doing good? Okay.
Yeah, let's wrap it up, but I'll finish it up here strong.
Sweet.
Marshall Scott.
I heard he's not that cool.
Michael Scott's cousin.
Yeah, again, I like the big photos. I think this one does a good job of putting the emphasis on the pictures. You can see like this grid view versus the other grid view, all of these photos are very visible.
Yeah.
Versus the other one with the young lady, hers were a little bit harder to see. Let's get in touch.
Ted, is that your chair? Is your chair that noisy? It sounds like you got chickens running around in there.
No, it's
he actually did. He did a little bit more of what I said here. Big call to action. Follow us on Instagram.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Overall, I like this website. I think got a little bit of like the header's a little funky. Like it's a little too wide. Mm-hmm. See, like it kind of went down into 2 rows here with the contact me and the about stuff.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of the drop down stuff. If
good to know.
Yeah, if you can just get them to click on portfolio, then on portfolio you can get them to make those 2 choices.
I'm gonna have to rewatch this whole thing. It's because I'm not taking notes on purpose because I want to pay attention. But I'm gonna have to go back and like take a million notes after this.
Yeah. Well, listen, let me just say this. It's easy to be a critic, right? Like if you went to our website, you would probably be able to point things out that we could do a better job of too.
Yeah.
So I appreciate people submitting.
Yeah.
What I do like here is that the choices are very straightforward. Portfolio, blog, pricing, about, contact. Very simple language. It's easy to understand. It's a little bit of a formatting issue over here. But yeah, solid site. Show the world the way you look at him. Clearly, he's speaking to a female. I don't know what percentage of the people you guys work with that reach out are the bride versus the groom.
Yeah.
Is it mostly brides?
Yeah, it feels like mostly brides. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's okay, right? Like that's that technique that's show me that you know me. If the majority of the people that are going to be on the site are women, then I think that speaking directly to them is a powerful technique.
Yeah.
That is awesome. I wouldn't have thought of it that way. That makes sense.
So solid site, Marshall. Way to go.
Yeah,
This last one is the one we talked about before, what your ideas are on like instantly being thrown into a decision on I guess this is a landing page, right? Although we call landing pages where it's a call to sales, but I don't know.
So this is the website for the company?
Yes.
Yeah, this is like as soon as I like went to the site, it'd be boom, that'd be the first thing you see.
Not our company. Someone submitted it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, you're going to make one of those two choices, or you're going to leave, right? Yeah. What are you looking for, weddings or commercial? Yeah, it's not the worst. It's not the worst approach. Okay. They have removed all of the options, so somebody's going to take that choice, and then it gets into a more traditional website once they do that. I don't think that you have to do this. I don't like, there could be some people that get really geeky that talk about things like bounce rate. So like when somebody comes to your website, if they click on anything, then that means they didn't bounce, right? So they didn't bounce off your website. And for analytics, people want a low bounce rate.
Right.
So I would guess that this website has a low bounce rate because it does force the person to make the choice here. But yeah, not a huge fan of it. I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's like a tactic or a technique that helps them, but it does help the visitor, right? Like it gets the visitor to the part of the website that they care about the most very quickly. And this will just go back to my ideology before. Hopefully, whoever's website this is does about half of their business of each. So if they actually do half weddings and half commercial, this technique makes sense. If they do a bunch of weddings and a little bit of commercial, then this technique probably doesn't make sense because it doesn't get them to the actual stuff they do.
Because I think a lot of the theory behind this is some people would say you should have two separate websites, one for weddings, one for commercial, two separate company names even. Like you can kind of do a lot of different things with it. And I feel like going back to your earlier point, when you go to a wedding site, if you go to my website and I do 2% commercial gigs throughout the year, I don't think that they're going to really love looking through all my wedding stuff, because they don't care about that. They might just leave, So at least I think that's what the purpose of that one page was. It's just kind of split the visitors into different directions.
Yeah.
But maybe the real solution is to have separate websites altogether. I don't know.
Yeah, I think overall it's not terrible. I mean, the one thing I would say is the interface and the look and feel of this homepage is very different than when you click through. Okay. So it goes from like big, bold photography and simple calls to action, and then everything gets really small at the top here. Huh. Yeah. I don't know. Awesome. I don't know how to feel about it. I don't think it's terrible to do this approach. I think for the user, it gets them to the part of the website that they're looking for. But it's kind of like easier to make this choice than it is to make the choices on the next page.
Interesting.
Also, there's like work versus gallery, which feels like the same thing. I don't really know what the extras would be. And then see how the drop downs are like really hard to read.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I would try to have a little bit more contrast there with the drop downs.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my feedback, man. This is fun. I could do this all night.
Yeah, it's been great. Seriously. Hey, I do have there's a question coming in, and it's something I was thinking of too. What are you, when you're looking at web design now, are you focusing, and I may have asked this already, but are you focusing on mobile design or desktop design?
Yeah, I would be looking at everything on mobile.
Okay.
I would obsess about how my site looked on mobile. Yeah. Probably about 70% of your traffic is going to come from mobile. So, we're kind of cheating by looking at these big sites on the desktop, right, because that's not what people are going to see. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's all about mobile. The majority of the traffic from social media, the traffic from email, even the Google searches, factor in that 70% of the visitors are going to be on a phone, and really obsess about it looking great there. It's much easier to kind of expand from there. If you build a beautiful desktop site, it's hard to squeeze it down into a phone. But if you build a beautiful phone site, it's very easy to expand it into desktop.
That makes a lot of sense.
Hey, I don't know if you even do this, but I honestly have an inbox full of messages from people that are like, I was too scared to submit mine. Does he have a service where he does it and I can pay him or his company to do it?
Side hustle?
Side hustle. We're creating a new passive income stream.
Yeah. Here's what I'll do. If people go and follow me on Instagram, my Instagram is Chris_SMTH. Chris_SMTH. If people follow me on Instagram, send me a DM and let me know that you were watching the Wedding Crashers. I'll just take a look at their site and I'll DM them back and tell them what I think. I don't need to charge for it. It's not a service that I provide. And then if people want to support me, they can buy the book, The Conversion Code. They can go to theconversioncode.com. That'll open it up on Amazon. It is also on Audible. So yeah, if you want to support me and support a fellow artist, I'm an author, not a photographer, but theconversioncode.com.
Listen, they have to buy your book. They need it. This is like killer.
Read it, live by it. It seriously makes a lot of difference. And yeah, it's been absolutely amazing having you on here, man. It's great. I feel like we got so much information. It's like to take
I'm exhausted because I feel like we learned so much. It's like one of those days in school where you're like, fuck, now I got to go through all of my stuff again.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Great, Chris.
Cool. Well, thanks for having me on. And
Chris,
you guys are doing great stuff. Yeah,
thank you so much.
We
appreciate the book too.
For watching.
Yeah, thank you. We love the book so much. So this is fantastic getting to talk to you.
And again, it was at Chris_SMTH.
Yep. Yeah, Chris_SMTH on Instagram. If they go there, they should see me. And I do look the same in person as I do on my Instagram. I don't edit the photos. I don't go into.
We can do that for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
A bunch of people just commented, bought the book tonight while watching.
Cool.
So
awesome. Thank you
guys so
much.
And I can attest the Audible version is amazing. It's awesome. So great.
Oh, you know what? I love doing the Audible book stuff with you because occasionally in there you'll say, hey, when I wrote this was the case, but there's also something new that happened. I like that a lot. So actually on that point where all of us are looking into TikTok as the next media stream.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, I know. As soon as you get caught up on one thing, there's another thing.
Yeah, oh, man, it's crazy.
We're looking into it. Tommy already made an account.
I did. That was purely as a consumer, though.
Chris, thank you so much, man. You totally killed it, blew our mind like we knew you would. And I think you helped a ton of people, so that's amazing.
Cool. Happy to help.
Thanks
Thank
again,
you so
brother.
much, Chris.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you, guys.
All right, thanks a lot, guys. Hey, we're going to sign off. Thanks for watching
we'll stay on for a little bit.
We're staying on. Never mind.
Okay,
All right. Hey, thanks a lot, Chris.
Guys. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, brother. It was amazing.
See you later.
Whoa.
That was crazy.
That was awesome.
Oh my God.
Did you just kick him out or did he exit himself?
He exited. I would never.
So, all right, wait. Guys, I'm still monitoring the comment section right now. We didn't get to the live Q&A because Chris had other things. He's got to go. So let's do an experiment real quick. Do you guys want us to stay on and do a live Q&A? Or we can drop a link in the comments right now and we can all jump on a giant Wedding Crashers Zoom call with everybody still watching, and we can chat about
choices. Can we do
how
both?
our mind is blown. We're going to give you 30 seconds so this catches up. Comment in the comment section. Do it.
Dude, so
that was like
my mind is blown.
So
there's
as
so
he was
much
saying,
information.
As he was saying for people to go on his Instagram, blah blah blah. I messaged him instantly. I was like, "Hey, thanks so much, blah 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 blah. Can you check out my website?" Because I'm feeling pretty good about it.
Totally gonna do it.
Yeah.
There's so many takeaways there though. Really awesome stuff, and it was so great to see an outside the industry perspective.
That was cool.
So valuable.
Yeah.
So valuable.
The thing you kept saying about the wording we use for the menus, that makes so much sense because in our industry we use a lingo all the time that makes sense to us. Like we knew what a friend door was, you know, we know what collections meant, you know, but he's coming at it from a view that has no, like he didn't know what a timeline was, you know, with that one free guide she was giving away.
Right. And,
so
and you think about it from somebody who, I mean, I'm sure he's,
yeah.
I don't know if he's married or not, but I'm sure somebody who like just doesn't know that. Like if you're looking at first time wedding couples, they don't know what a timeline is, or they don't know the term exactly what it means.
That's why it's so important, because the people coming to our sites, that's where they are.
I know what
it
means.
They don't know what we're talking about.
And
like,
it just made sense. Like, because this rule applies across the board. Like if there's a lingo all of us in general already understand, all of us collectively, we should probably try to use that lingo more because it's easily understandable. You know?
I think that was the whole thing. The takeaways I got was like, clean it up, make it simple. Don't assume they'll do anything. Like, man, I just redid my site and love it, and now I probably hate it again.
Yeah.
I have to go back and fix it.
That's why I feel bad because he had some good stuff to say, but you know, it was you know, constructive criticism. You know.
All right,
I think it was good.
It looks like the most comments we got are saying a Zoom call. So why don't we do a sign off on this, and then we'll drop a link in that chat over there. By the way, I dropped a link for, if you weren't on this live, we dropped a link for our new project, which is the Wedding Crashers Book Club. Don't sign off right there, because this is a reimagining of a book club. So our idea with it is every month as a group, we're going to pick a book, a course, a workshop, and we're going to tear it apart together like a hive mind. And what we're going to do is we're going to find out what's working for people, what's not working, and together we're going to shortcut our learning. It's kind of like our grand experiment. So we're going to drop a link in this to the book club. You could message either one of us or the Wedding Crashers page, and we'll get you a link to get invited to it if it sounds like the right thing for you. You know, only do it if you're serious about it. If you like geeking out over this stuff, we're going to have a good time with it.
We have some amazing people in there right now helping us out. Some people who are super talented, super driven to go through these books and stuff like that. There's already great conversation happening in there. Check it out. It's awesome. So much learning. Yeah. It's pay to play. No, I'm kidding. It's not. It's free. Get on there.
And there's a link in there. If you join Audible, you'll get a free audiobook, your first one for free, which is pretty dope.
There's a link to that in everywhere, Ted. We posted everywhere.
No, that's just for us. It's exclusive. Shh.
Yep, absolutely. And hey, I'm getting a lot of questions. This will air as an episode. So we've been recording this the whole time, and then we'll put it out on YouTube as a full episode. And it's gonna
it'll be on iTunes and all that too.
Yep.
But give us some time. We have to edit that and make that happen.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
Everybody needs a